In every scam, there's a victim, but this time, it wasn't just money that was lost, it was humanity itself.
You sit right there and listen to what he says, and then I'll give you a chance to ask questions. Okay. First of all, you need to stand up and raise your right hand and be placed under oath. All right, I'll hear whatever you want to say about the ownership of this vehicle.
Okay, at the time this was all going on, I did have a concussion. It had happened, I fell in the shower at her mother's house, bumped my head. And part of it is foggy. I did turn it in as stolen, both in Robertson County on the 1st of June, I believe it was. And then also in Cheatham County, I talked to Tim Binkley personally, and they were looking for the vehicle all the way back as from the first week of June in both counties. The other stuff that was taken, whatever, but she wanted to buy the car. I had a deal on a car that if I could sell it that cheap, because the car.
When a man loses the love of his life, the world already feels empty. But what happens when someone uses that pain as a weapon?
She's still not paid a dime for the car. That's why she didn't have a bill of sale. When she wanted the title, and we were sitting there talking about the title, then I said, pay for it. And she said, well, if you'll give me the title, I can take it to a loan place and get the money for you. And I said, I think I better hang on to this. And then the night before she took off with the car, I had told her I decided to trade it. I had already talked to Tommy over in Guthrie, and I was going to trade it for something that would pull a camper, because I got a camper. And she took off. She also she stole the title. She stole my wife had.
In the shadow of loss, he found what he thought was comfort, but comfort came dressed in deceit.
She called me in March, I believe it was, and said she was calling to check on me. And she told Cindy she would, because we'd been so good to her and her boyfriend. Then she called again in a few weeks and asked me if I could come get her because her boyfriend put his hands on her. And I went and got her. So the 5 months she's talking about, it was really probably the last week of March, late third week, and into May 29th is when she took off with a car. On the 31st, which was my birthday, she'd taken out a Cash App card. I'm not even aware of these things. Had it delivered to her mother's address and had cleaned out my pension account when it went in the bank on the 31st.
She promised to help him heal. Instead, she began to steal, not just his money, but the last piece of peace left in his heart.
He sets of golf clubs with her. Then on that Monday would have been Memorial Day. So I did talk to the Deputy Ortega over in Robertson County on the, I guess it was well, it'd have been the first. And he told me how to proceed with it. And at that point, I turned the vehicle in as stolen. The title turned in as stolen. And then on the Tuesday, I found out that I called my bank the day after the holiday, and because they told me that the 160 had been taken out on my birthday, and I stopped everything.
She took his trust, his wife's memory, and his home, turning grief into a playground for her lies.
And prior to this, like on the 26th or so of May, I had got a credit card bill for my wife, for a brand new credit card. And I called them because she had passed away in October, the 29th. And I was just, all I asked him was, just, can you tell me the issue date? Because she's gone. And they wouldn't, because I wasn't the primary on the account. And she kept trying to get me to stop asking questions and drop that. And I couldn't figure it out. But when she took off in the car, I had told her I was trading it off on Tuesday. I'd already talked to Tommy, and I was investing.
He gave her shelter, she gave him scars. Every word she spoke was another nail in the coffin of his faith.
Wasn't given to her, and she never paid a dime, not one penny, ever. But she had taken my wife's driver's license, her social security card, her birth certificate, and tried to take out a $1,000 loan and 2 credit cards. I think that's mine, I'm sorry. I thought I had the battery turned off. I just brought it in because there's pictures of it. There's pictures of the barn and the vehicle. The vehicle was in there. The tags had been taken off. When Steve Romans, him and Trey Watson, who works for him, found it. Trey, I coached in Little League over here in East Cheatham in baseball and basketball. And then they were over at Susan Heron's, and they were talking about they'd found this Buick. Well,
when the car disappeared, so did the truth. Titles forged, accounts drained, and the ghost of betrayal haunting every corner.
Steve Romans called me then. He's friends with my son-in-law and his dad and my brothers, and anyway, and told me where it was, and I went over, and it was my vehicle. I then got a locksmith. I spent almost $500 to get in it and get it going. Then I had to buy 4 tires. It had been run off the road and hit the wheel wells were messed up. And they told me that the tire place that it had been driven on flat tires, they could tell by looking at the old ones when they pulled them off. And I got the vehicle back on like the 12th, 14th. The 12th is when I was notified they found it. On the 14th is when I was able to get it back to the house, and I started fixing it. And I fixed the vehicle up.
She didn't just take his vehicle, she took his wife's name, her identity, her dignity, and wore it like a disguise.
I went and seen Tommy and traded it off. Just like I said, I got the new title because that was told. The Deputy Ortega and Tim Binkley both told me that would be the thing to do, because she had never paid for this car, never paid a dime, never tried to, never worked. And we weren't together no 5 months, it was about a month and a half. And there wasn't a relationship other than she was going to comfort me from losing my wife and going to take care of me and help me. And if I just sign it over to her, she was going to be there to drive for me anyway. And when I started to hand it to her, I thought, the hair stood up on my neck, and I thought, I believe I'll hold on to this until you get me the money. And that's where it was when she took it out of my box with my wife's ID and everything else, and then proceeded to use that.
Innocence turned into suspicion, love into evidence, and every tear told the story of a man used and broken.
That ever since my banks, I had to close all my accounts. I had to close all my credit cards. I'm still dealing with it. I got my Social Security check this month. Is the first time since June, and I didn't get it in June. But since then I got my check on time. My pension check is still in the wind, and I'm waiting for it.
This case doesn't have anything to do with your Social Security check.
But it's all part of the whole pattern. It was a scam. The whole thing is a scam. That's what she does. She's on probation for stealing in Springfield and for drugs here in this county. And I was just a patsy. And she used my wife, who had just died, and talked about a friendship to her and everything.
He stood before the court not just for justice, but for his soul, for every moment stolen from the memory of his wife.
Here today, I tore up. I spent a couple of days just in pieces. I miss her so much, man. And she used that to get to me and to get these things and set out to steal all these things I'm bringing up. It was not like it's just abstract, oh, I think I'll do it. This was it's a pattern of this person. And if her record shows that. I've never been in trouble. I coached ball around here. I fixed the ball field. I built the softball field at Cheatham Central and all those fields at Sycamore. My company did all that for free. I changed the lights in every ball field in the county for a year for free.
This wasn't about a car. It was about a life built on trust, burned down by deceit.
Son's a Green Beret stationed at Fort Campbell. You can ask anybody around. You can ask Tim. Tim's one of the first people I called because I've known him since he was a DARE officer, you know, and he helped with the kids that we had a blind fund for kids who couldn't afford stuff and we bought it.
Right.
And I know that's got nothing to do with it, but the vehicle, she never paid for this vehicle. She never tried to pay for this vehicle. It's all a lie. It's a blatant, that's why I asked about perjury, because she's lying. She never paid a dime for this vehicle. Otherwise, she'd had a bill of sale. It's as simple as that. She would have had a bill of sale. I wouldn't have neglected that. And I didn't tear nothing up, and I didn't go after her. She started hitting herself on the.
In every scam, there's a victim, but this time, it wasn't just money that was lost, it was humanity itself.
I've been a widow twice in my lifetime. I've never put my hands on a woman, and I wouldn't.
All right.
And I've never threatened one either.
Ms. Wells, you may come to the podium, and I'm going to remind you, questions you need to ask are directed to him regarding your complaint in this case.
Did you sign the title, John? Did you sign the title?
Did I find it?
Did you sign the title?
When I had a concussion.
You didn't have a concussion. You didn't have a
Yeah,
concussion.
you told me you had the money.
No, I paid you already.
Stop talking, both of you.
Did you give the title to? Oh, sorry. I thought you were just talking about just.
Show this to the gentleman, Mr. Friends. Is that your signature on that document?
It could be.
Could be.
So like, yeah, I mean, I've got the paperwork with me. I had a concussion and I was out of it for a month. But the point of it is, I remember sitting there and we talked about this, and I remember I was signing it, and I said, what about the money? She said she didn't have it. So I said, I'd let her hang on to this, and I put it in my lockbox. And it's just a cheap one you can open with a pocket knife. But I put it in there with all of my wife's stuff, and it was all gone when she took off. She took this.
All right, hand that back to the bailiff. As well as have a seat.
Thank you, sir.
And I got a new title because that was what suggested.
He walked away empty-handed, but not defeated, because even in betrayal, truth still breathes louder than lies.